Hey guys, welcome back to Your Lake Fork Guide. I got another episode of the Guides Network, the series where we give you in-depth, detailed fishing instruction and advice, going more in depth than you'll find just about anywhere else in the world of bass fishing. Today we're going to talk about one of my very favorite techniques. I've been doing it since I was a kid, basically my whole life, and this is one of the most dependable techniques when times get tough, especially when those fish start trying to transition from summer to fall like they're just starting to do right now. Today we're going to talk about everything that you need to know about dock fishing. First things first, let's break off into the baits. You got to know what baits you're going to throw when you're going dock fishing. We'll start off with my very favorite, and this one is my very favorite because it's probably the most versatile. I can do the most with this on docks. We're going to talk about a 3/8 ounce jig, and I got to have a jig that has somewhat of a flat bottom on the head in order for me to be able to skip it efficiently. Now you're probably wondering, hey Billy, where's the rest of that jig? You ain't got no trailer on that thing. Well, there's two different types of trailers I'll use, guys. One is the Smash Crawl by Smash Tech, right there. Just a good crawl bait. The legs really swim and kick good when the bait's falling or when I'm swimming it. And the other one is a Sweet Beaver. So how do I decide between which bait I want? Well, if I think it's a possibility that I'm going to be swimming this jig out, which is a lot of the time, I'm going to use the Smash Crawl because I need those legs to kick when I swim it out of there. The one time that I do go to the beaver, and the reason I brought it out, is when the bite gets tough, when you're in a tough time of year, transitioning fish, turnover time of year, any of those type of things that are starting to happen right here during this time in East Texas, sometimes you need that bait to fall a little bit faster to get those fish to react to it. If it just falls at a normal rate, they'll just sit there and stare at it because they don't want to bite. They don't feel good. They're not biting good, so you have to make them react. When I need the bait to fall faster to generate a better reaction bite, that's when I'm going to go to the beaver style trailer. Now I'm going to show you how I rig up. Now this will be the same whether I was using this crawl or this beaver. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my bait. You see right there where the end of the meat of the bait, the very end of the body, right there between the eyes on that bait, I want my hook point, I want the hook bend to come out in those eyes. One thing I want when I'm skipping a jig on our dock, I want the bait to be as compact as possible. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to line the bait up and see where that hook bend will come out right between the eyes. Okay, now I'm going to look back here and put my finger right there just below the skirt collar, so I've got it measured. Pinch that off. I know I need to cut that bait right there. Going to grab my scissors, get right next to my finger without cutting my finger, and I'm going to cut that bait right there at that length. Now one thing you need to do with the beaver that'll help you, that's a lot wider than your jig. It'll make your skirt look kind of funny. So I like to take and kind of trim the corners off on my beaver baits when I trim them down to the middle of the body. Okay, so I got that right there. Now we're just going to thread this onto the hook. Trying to pull the hook point out. Remember, right between those eyes right there, that's where you want the hook bend to come out of. So we'll get it on there nice and straight, dead center. Roll it up. Keep the hook in the body till it comes out right between the eyes. Bunch it up on there. Now as you can see, the bend of my hook came out right between those eyes. Now I'll fold that down. I've got a nice, compact, rapid rate of fall jig. Make sure you detach these legs right here, and that's the jig we're going to go with right there. As far as colors, guys, especially when we're talking about summertime or the end of summer going into fall, I really feel like you're dealing with fish that are eating brim or bluegill. So I'm going to go with those type of colors. As you can see, this right here is the Grass Mutant Color Jig 3/8 ounce 6 cents Divine Hybrid jig, which is a great jig for flipping and skipping and pitching and dipping and dodging and ducking and doing all that stuff. That's why it's called a hybrid jig, but it's my best dock fishing jig that I own. And that Sweet Beaver is in the Houdini color. I like to mix up a little bit lighter color at the end of summer. I think those brim have a little bit light on their belly because they got that hard suntan on their back, and so their belly kind of sticks out as being a brighter color, a whiter, lighter color. And so I like to throw that Houdini in there to kind of give it that highlight like that brim has on his belly. At the end of the day, don't overthink the colors, guys. Get something that's green and brown on your jig and get a green pumpkin trailer and you'll be good to go. Now, as far as the size of the jig, you notice I said 3/8 ounce. That's one thing that's important to me because we're going to be skipping this a lot. When you're skipping under a dock, there's two things you have to consider. The lighter the jig is, the easier it's going to be to get it to skip. The heavier the jig is, the easier it will be to throw it at the speed that you need to skip it far. To me, 3/8 ounce is the perfect weight for skipping a jig. A 1/4 ounce, it doesn't want to carry the momentum as well. A 1/2 ounce, it wants to dive a little bit more. The 3/8 ounce tends to be the best size for me to skip up under docks the most efficiently. All right, so the jig is my number one pick, but there's several baits that I'll use when dock fishing. I'm gonna have to kind of speed this process up because we got a lot of baits to go over, and the big part of this video is we're really gonna show you how I go about breaking down a dock and fishing it efficiently and thoroughly to get the most bites. So my next bait, and one of my favorite, again for the summertime when the bite gets tough, is gonna be a Finesse shaky head. 1/4 ounce shaky head. That's the 6 cent shaky head in 1/4 ounce, and that is the 6 cents divine shaky head worm. They pair up beautifully together. It's almost like they were designed to go together or something, I don't know. But I love watermelon blue flake colors in the summertime. This is a great color right now. This is a great worm. This is a great bait all the way around, and it's no exception around docks. You can skip this thing a little bit up under docks. You can roll cast it up under docks, get it in those shade lines, and this bait right here will produce bites for you. The next bait's gonna be the old wacky worm. Now, again, I've got this watermelon blue flake worm on here. This is the new 6 cents clout. Guys, this bait is brand new. This stick bait is brand new. I'm just telling you, dock fishing aside, go get some of these stick baits from 6 cents called the clout. This thing is unbelievable. The shimmy it has on the fall, it's already taken over some of my days on my guide trips where this bait is catching hands down more fish than everything else combined. Great new worm right there called the clout. Got a little bit different shaped ribs, a little bit different action, a little bit more shimmy and shake when it first starts falling. Go check that one out. But a wacky worm is a great bait to fish around docks at the end of summer because fish like to suspend under those hard shade lines, and when they do that, you get that wacky worm up under there with them, and it'll kind of hang in their face a little bit longer than everything else. Sometimes this can be the only bait they'll bite under a dock, so make sure you got one of those ready to go if you're dock fishing. When you hear fish under dock blowing up, you can see them kind of chasing some shad. You hear some bait fish scattering on the surface way up under dock. Pick up a hollow body frog. They skip really well. They're easy to get. They're one of the easiest baits to skip up under a dock, and you can pop this and walk it out, and yes, fish will come up and blow up on this on the surface, and you can catch some really big bass under docks using a hollow body frog. And finally, maybe the most common bait used around docks, and maybe the best bait to use around docks, just an old Texas rig. We've just got an old ribbon tail Berkeley power worm right here. You can use a 10-inch worm. You can use little creature baits, little beaver baits. You can put anything you want to on that Texas rig. But one of the best ways to fish under dock, and the way that I personally started and learned how to fish under dock, is with a Texas rig plastic right there. That's going to be a 4/0 EWG hook. That's going to be a 1/4 ounce tungsten weight. I like to peg it. I don't want my weight separating. When I'm going over those cross members in the dock, that'll get you hung up if the weight separates, so I like to peg it. But just old school as it gets, dependable, but boy does it work up under those docks. And one thing I want to talk to you guys about before I start fishing this dock and showing you how to break it down is, you look at a map of a lake, you look at the docks on Google Earth on a lake, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. Sometimes there's just miles of docks and you don't know where to start. Well, guys, what you got to do is you got to study the contours, the bottom features. Also look for grass. Matted grass around these docks can be a big player to draw more fish to them. But anything that you can add to a dock to make it better is going to increase your odds of it holding more and bigger fish. So if you've got a dock that's sitting on a point, or has a creek channel swing going underneath it, or just has a steep bank running down that bank line, maybe you fish that whole stretch of docks, whatever it may be, find something different. If you got a whole bunch of docks, you got to find something that's different, whether it be the grass, whether it be the point, the creek channel, whatever it may be. And the more of those things that you have, the better. So if you have a point, and there's a dock right there on the side of the point, right next to the point, and there's a creek channel bend that swings in off the side of that point and goes under the end of that dock, and on that point and down that bank there's grass, Now you've just hit the mother lode. That's 4 different things you got. You got a dock, you got a creek channel swing, you got a point, and you got grass. 4 different things to draw fish. Boy, that dock is almost guaranteed gonna have a lot of big, healthy, happy bass that have a lot of different options on how they can live, and there's really no reason for them to go other than that place right there, because they have everything they want right in one little area. So the more of that type of stuff you have, the better those docks will be. So you got to do a little map study, do a little Google Earth study, and try to dial in which docks are going to give you the best percentages to hold more and bigger fish. One other visual clue you can take when you're out on the lake that's important: look at the dock itself. I prefer older docks than newer docks. I think docks that have been there and been established, I think there's gonna be a better chance that maybe something's fallen off those docks into the water. There's gonna be a better chance that there's brush piles around those docks. There's gonna be a better chance that that dock is gonna have more algae on all the structure underneath it that's gonna draw more bait fish. So in a apples to apples comparison, if I have an old dock and a new dock, I prefer the old dock, especially to a brand new one. A brand new dock, I really don't like to fish that much. The other thing is, when you're looking at a dock, look at everything on the dock. Is that guy a fisherman, or does he have ski boats and jet skis? If he has ski boats and jet skis, he probably doesn't have a lot of brush piles around his dock. But if you see one that's got fishing poles all the way around it, or you see fishing poles up on the deck, he's got an old John boat or a bass fishing boat in the boat slip on the dock, hey, that guy's a fisherman. And that guy's going to be a lot more prone to have a bunch of brush piles stacked up around his dock, which is just going to make it obviously that much better. So pay attention to all those little details. The one thing that I'll tell you that you need to do when you're dock fishing, guys, the most important thing is you have to pay attention to every little detail. And as we fish this dock over here and we break down how we go about dissecting it, we'll talk more about that. But every single detail that you come across when you're dock fishing, you have to remember all of them. It's very, very important. This is very much a deal that you can pattern across a lake, but you have to know every detail so that when you go to duplicate it, you can duplicate it exactly like you had it on that first spot. Let's get up and fish this dock right here. Let's talk about it, and let's show you guys how we go about breaking this dock down to catch all these fish.